One of the main things that we're really interested in speaking with you today about is the building code regulations that the commission approved in December. That was just a few months after the hurricane. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I can walk you through the concept. The exact details I'd rather leave to, as I said, our floodplain managers, in our case, Harris County Flood Control. We now have the strictest regulations anywhere, 2 feet above the 100-year plain. But the problem is we don't know where the plains are. So any code, any regulation, any level of government puts in, if you don't know where your floodplains are, then it's going to miss the mark. And the example I give all the time is we have these 2 large reservoirs built by the Corps of Engineers back in the 1940s, Addicks and Barker. When they were built, they were 20 miles out of town. Nobody was ever going to live out there. But now, we've built all the way up to them. And along the way, nobody kept track of where the tributaries and creeks were, so that if we get a huge rain event, we don't know where the natural flow patterns are. That's a big issue.
Doesn't the new floodplain regulations go to, rather than the 100-year floodplain, it goes to the 500?
It does both.
So,
right.
Do you know why they went?
Sure, because as I said, we've had 3 500-year events in a 2-year period. And I say it only half jokingly, but I said it in my State of the County not long after Harvey, matter of fact, a few weeks. And I said, so we've had these 3 massive rain events, all higher than a 500-year event, supposedly. So either our definition of a 500-year event is wrong, or maybe we're safe for the next 1,500 years. But nobody believes the latter.
Right. And I do want to, first of all, did you get any pushback from the real estate or contractors?
We did not at the county level. When the city tried to put theirs in, they did. And I'm not real sure why. I think it has to do with we have more open space, we have more options for developers to go to. And it was hard for people to argue against. I mean, one of the first things I had to do as an elected official was say, what we had in place in the past was wrong. Our detention requirements obviously weren't adequate. And unless you as an elected official are willing to admit that what you've got in place or have had in place isn't adequate, then you're not ever going to have good public policy.
So you did bring up the major flooding that happened in, I'm not going to get the names right, but the 2015, was that the Memorial Day flood or the Tax Day flood?
Well, let's see. I have a way of remembering this. I think we did Memorial Day and then Tax Day.
Okay, so major flooding in 2015 and 2016. Right. But you guys didn't make...
major changes.
Yeah, and is there a reason? It is because you probably did you think it was a fluke in 2015?
No, we were looking at the changes, but the areas that flooded in 2015 and 2016 were pretty well defined, and we had projects underway. I mean, I mentioned the Meyerland area earlier. They were inundated both times, but we have a major project along Brays Bayou that everybody says once we get that done, most of those people will be taken out of harm's way. But then Harvey, the rains from Harvey were totally different. And there were areas flooded that have never flooded. And maybe I don't want to take too much time with it, but I got a call from a reporter from the Northeast who wanted to talk about an area called Cypress Fairbanks. And he said, and I understand that area has never flooded before. And I said, well, how do you know? And of course he thought, oh gosh, I'm talking to some local guy. And I said, no, because that area, when I was in the legislature back in the 70s and 80s, I would drive from my home in a place called Kingwood to Austin, and I'd go right past Cy-Fair High School. It was one high school in the whole school district, and it was a 3A high school, which is kind of mid-level. Now they have 12 high schools, and they're all 6A. We have hundreds of thousands of people living in an area where nobody lived before. And the cows didn't tell you whether it flooded or not back in the day. And nobody really cared. But now we know it did. And then that leads to the whole conversation you didn't ask, but preserving natural areas. We've got the Katy Prairie, which is a wonderful natural resource west of town that has been largely built on. and we do have a Katy Prairie Conservancy that's trying to save what's left of it. We just need to do that. We just need to say, okay, no more building out there. That's our sponge that's going to soak up a lot of the water that's coming downstream.
So how many acres is that sponge?
Oh, you're going to ask me those kind of difficult questions. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's a large area still, and it's still a contiguous area, which makes it important.